Imagine, you just got home from a movie matinee. The movie you saw was really good. It was full of intrigue and deception and cover-ups. You know why all your friends told you to go see it. So you brush off the popcorn crumbs, you sit on your couch and turn on the evening news. The lead story is about an accident at a nuclear power plant in New York, 3 Mile Island. The movie you just went to go see was The China Syndrome. It had just come out 12 days earlier. It was also about an accident at a nuclear power plant. One that one of the characters said could render an area the size of Pennsylvania uninhabitable. You're now kind of scared. So's the rest of the country. Now, how many of you have negative feelings towards nuclear power? Do you know why? Did you see a movie like The China Syndrome? Maybe it's because nuclear power has gotten a lot of bad press over the years. But does it really deserve it? I've wondered this myself. As a new father, I've thought a lot about the future I'm going to leave for my son. The climate change is one of my biggest concerns. Now, some deny it, but I tend to believe the consensus of the scientific community. Scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who has said, "We are dumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere at a rate the Earth hasn't seen since the great climate catastrophes of the past, the ones that led to mass extinctions. We just can't seem to break our addiction to the kinds of fuel that will bring back a climate last seen by the dinosaurs. A climate that will drown our coastal cities, wreak havoc on the environment, and our ability to feed ourselves." Now, the majority of the CO2 that we are dumping into the atmosphere comes from our energy consumption. Around 52% of that, according to the Department of Energy, comes from dirty coal. Now, wouldn't nuclear be a better, cleaner, greener option? Today, I'm here to convince you that building more nuclear power plants in the U.S. is the right thing to do. It is a viable solution to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions and potentially reducing or reversing climate change. I'm going to show you the past, present, and future of nuclear power in the U.S., why it got such a bad reputation, and why it doesn't really deserve it, and why we need to build more. Let's start with a brief history of nuclear power in this country. Post-World War II, we entered the atomic age. Harry Truman ended the war using atomic energy, and in 1951, he commissioned the USS Nautilus. It was the first nuclear reactor on a vessel, and it took that submarine to the North Pole underneath the sea ice. It was the first ship to do so. The Nautilus captured the imaginations of many and proved to many that nuclear could be a usable power source and not just a destructive power. So how did we get here? How did nuclear get so maligned? Well, the first way, I believe, is how we ended hostilities with the Empire of Japan. The devastating effects of the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki forever associated atomic energy with death. Secondly, post-war were the rising tensions with the Soviet Union, the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis and the bombing drills that came with it forever tied nuclear power to the danger of nuclear annihilation. Now, this is an issue that's still addressed today with politics like the nuclear capabilities of Iran, for example. Now, in the meantime, the U.S. built over 100 nuclear reactors to power our cities, most of which are still in operation today, providing clean and efficient energy. Many of these reactors are based on the same design used on that Nautilus submarine, but I'll get back to that a little bit later. Now, so with the exception of 3 Mile Island in 1979, based on a World Nuclear Station report, U.S. nuclear reactors have a stellar safety record. And even 3 Mile Island wasn't as bad as most people think. Radiation did not annihilate, no one died, and everything was contained within the nuclear power plant. Nuclear Regulatory Commission published this. This was the most serious accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant history. Although its small radioactive releases had no detectable health effects on plant workers or the public, its aftermath brought about sweeping changes involving emergency response planning, reactor operation training, human factors engineering, radiation protection, and also many other areas of nuclear power plant operations. It also caused the NRC to tighten and heighten its regulatory oversight. All these changes significantly enhanced U.S. reactor safety. So to recap, the worst accident in U.S. history had no effects on anything, and it led to making our plants safer. There has not since been an incident in 35 years. That's why I think we should build more. So why then does nuclear power have such a bad reputation? One accident without casualty seems hardly just cause. We don't have nearly as many people picketing outside coal power plants, and in a Time magazine article, they cause over 14,000 deaths in America every year. Now, we hate nuclear power because we've been told it's bad. Nuclear power is evil because that's how it's always portrayed. How many of you have watched The Simpsons? It's been on forever. You think about Mr. Burns, the evil nuclear power magnate, or Homer Simpson, the star of the show, the bumbling nuclear power worker who's probably going to cause a meltdown himself. I feel like many people do, and it really couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, the technician that oversees your local power plant is highly trained and by the government, although he may still like donuts. Now, environmentalists have a long-standing hatred of nuclear power. One of the major concerns is over what's done with the highly radioactive nuclear waste. That waste is a problem, I agree, but according to the EPA, it's not a large amount compared to other energy sources, and that small amount of waste does not contribute to the warming of the atmosphere, which is why we should build more. Now, the scientific community is starting to agree with me on this, and the increasing threat of climate change is compelling us to rethink energy. Many environmentalists are changing their mind when it comes to nuclear. Now, this open letter from 4 environmentalists and climate scientists was published late last year. These scientists are highly respected in their field, and they use social media like Facebook and Google+, and other sources like the New York Times to get out this message. It's a little small for you to read, so I'm going to read you some highlights. It says, to those influencing environmental policy but opposed to nuclear power, as climate and energy scientists concerned with global climate change, we are writing to urge you to advocate the development and deployment of safer nuclear energy systems. Quantitative analysis show that the risks associated with expanded use of nuclear energy are orders of magnitude smaller than the risks associated with fossil fuels. So that's right, even our leading scientists think we should build more. Now, older reactors do produce a highly toxic waste. Now, they were based on that first reactor design used in the Nautilus back in the 50s. The scientists have since improved that design, and new reactors can use the waste from those less efficient reactors to power the next generation of nuclear energy. We need to build more of these next generation plants. We need to build more nuclear power plants in the US. So just imagine going to the movies in the future. If we don't solve our energy problem, we might make a terrible film like Waterworld look like a documentary. I hope I have shown that nuclear power is a viable energy solution to reduce the United States greenhouse gas emissions and help reduce or reverse possible climate change. Environmentalists and climate change scientists alike are now coming into agreement that nuclear power plants absolutely need to be a part of the energy solution. Our future and our children's future depends upon it. So do a little more research. Look at how the immense benefits outweigh the very few risks. Then tell your friends, write your congressman, tell them we need to build more.